Oh my god. Yo, see ya, bitch. What if this ends with, like, them killing Shuji and then just dating each other? We're gonna go the Witch from Mercury ending again? Yo, Nian got done dirty! She had probably the most, like, progression towards if there was anyone gonna get together. And man, she got thrown in the cuck chair. So today we're breaking down the last episode of old Gundam GQuuuuuX. If you enjoy the video, drop a like, share your support, consider subscribing, stay up to date on all this anime. And hey, Patreon, we got the full live reactions and other exclusives over there. So, overall, I liked the show. I really did. It seemed like it was a very... Not only do I think the final episode was messy as a final episode, it kind of had a messy fandom. I felt like this Gundam had a more divided fandom than usual. I think we saw a lot of people being like, damn, who's been around since literally the franchise started, being like, oh, it's really cool seeing the fan service and the callbacks and seemingly an alternate, timeline of what we're used to. And then there was people who were like, I'm kind of newer to Gundam. I don't really know what's going on. And there's a lot of opinions. And I took a quick peek to see like what at least the English speaking side of the fandom was saying, and it feels very divided for the reactions. And I think in general that's what this show's going to be. It's really hard to say what it's going to represent long term. I've heard rumors that every year we're going to get a new Gundam anime building up into the big 50th anniversary. I've heard that we're going to continue to build off this storyline with different... I've heard a lot of things, but until they confirm more or whatever the next Gundam will be, we should take this as its own project, right? And at the end of the day, I don't think 12 episodes was enough. And it's a weird thing because I feel like in a lot of ways, yes, this show did start off as a movie, right? Like you could watch it the first couple of episodes in theater. On one hand, I feel like this was designed with just being a movie in mind, and a lot of the smaller subplots with Machu and Nian and all that would have probably just not existed. But at the same time, I feel like because of how it's designed, the 12-episode runtime constrained it. Because this is kind of an issue I have with modern Gundams in general. Gundams used to always be 50 episodes. And I'm not saying every show for Gundam should be 50. If I look at something like, say, Iron-Blooded Orphans, for me personally, I don't think Iron-Blooded Orphans needed 4 cores. I would have been perfectly acceptable of, say, just 3. Which for Mercury, don't think it needed 4 cores either. 3 cores would have been plenty. This show, I don't even think it needed 3. Maybe like even the 18 episodes, 16 episodes. It just felt like a lot of the final things we saw in this episode just kind of happened because they happen. And I think one of the biggest examples I can give for this is the fact that I didn't think Shuji loved either one of them. I thought maybe some of them had crushes, like, I'm like, hey, just some schoolgirls with a hobo boyfriend crush, whatever. But Shuji admitting his love to Machu, it just kind of happened. There was really no build-up. And I'm sure there's going to be people saying, oh, but what about the time they spent together? That didn't seem like chemistry. Like, if there was a mindless fling or crush, sure, I can accept that. But him being like, I love you? Well, am I the only one who's like... Like, if you actually would have pointed a gun in my head, I would have thought... Now, here's the thing. Machu is the MC, so yeah, like, her winning... I understand, but I would honestly think Nian had more of a connection with Shuji just based on what they showed us. So them being like, I love you, and then they kiss, and then they explode in the Kira Kira, I'm like, okay. There really wasn't, like, this is what I mean, like, if this was 16 to 18 episodes, maybe there's an extra episode of them literally just talking in the Kira Kira realm. I mean, you can take a page out of anime that did, like, a singular episode of just characters talking. You can do that. I don't know, It's an interesting beast to watch this show because I'm in a sticky situation where I've seen a lot of opinions rage from this is the best Gundam, like it's doing everything we want. You're not enjoying it enough. And then I've seen people say I enjoy it too much because it's a messy mess. Overall, my opinion leaving the show is I had a great time. Probably the best produced Gundam I've seen in TV in terms of TV anime. Insane production value. Personally, I thought we were getting more Evangelion ending. Like last week they made it seem like the universe was going to end, and surprisingly they went fairly peaceful with only kind of like the bad space people getting killed and everyone else kind of living, which is interesting. And I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with it. It's just I felt like I don't know, like I don't want to say they overpromise and underdeliver, but that's kind of where I'm sitting. And people will get salty with that. They'll be like, you're not being positive enough. But it's like, if anything, based on the reactions I'm seeing online about this, I feel like I'm more positive than a lot of people. It just feels like Yeah, the more Gundam you watched, the more you got out of it. But at the end of the day, it felt more like a fan service anime than a show that was really because here's the thing. The Char stuff and everything, they had all the attention. And I do like the concept of it being a big love story on both sides. The fact that you just want it, like every timeline, Char ends up dead from the White Gundam, right? So the fact that we're trying to find that timeline where he survives, don't let him get killed by the White Gundam. And then you have the love story with Nyan, Machu, as well as Shuji. At the end of the day, both sides are doing things for love. And I do like that. I think that's a solid idea. It just feels like 12 episodes just... I don't even think it needed, like, 16, 18 episodes. I feel like you could have fleshed out the smaller details a bit more. Like, here's another thing. So our girl, Nyan, saved Machu last week by sniping that bitch in the side. We start close to the beginning of this episode with her being like, I'm so sorry, lady. I wish I did, like, you knew her for, like, 2 days. Like, why did you actually care? You know, like, there's a lot of those moments. It's like, okay, so Shuji loved Machu this whole time. She cared about the bitch she was working. It's just, there's a lot of those moments where it just is like, on one hand, I feel like this would have worked better as a movie just primarily focusing on Char. Like, just do a Char movie. Pretty much ignore all the Machu stuff, and you would have had a more concise story. But at the same time, I do like the Machu stuff, as weak as her character was, in my opinion. But in that case, you need it to be a longer than 12 episode thing. Now, here's the thing. Couple years from now, who knows, maybe we'll cycle back to these characters, they'll flesh them out more. If this really is a planned, like, 5-year plan of, like, more anime and it's going to continue on, maybe these issues go away for me. But I have to look at what they've delivered as it stands. This was, as far as we know, the last episode for this story. And if this is all I ever get, it left a lot to be desired. And I think this is the one thing Gundam's struggling with, is episode counts. I do get the idea that things need to change, but at the same time, all it feels like is Gundam is getting shorter. And hey, anime's more expensive to make anymore. There's more anime being made than ever. It's harder to do 2 cores, 3 cores, 4 cores. I get that. But if you were to really ask me, would I prefer having a Gundam pop up every year or two that is messier with uneven episode counts that could be 1 core, 2 core? Or would you prefer waiting 3 or 4 years for, like, a 50 episode Gundam? I would personally prefer waiting for the 50 episode Gundam. That's just me. I have enjoyed every Gundam that I've watched, to some degree. But yeah, I don't know. People are gonna be like, oh, you're too negative, whatever. I can't please everyone. I think it was messy. I personally didn't expect Nyan to be put into the GQuuuuuX chair. I really thought Machu wasn't gonna win there. Hopefully more Space Hobo adventures in the future, but overall, damn good production. I love the fact that when we were focusing on the other side, they actually animated it like it came from the 80s, like even the same sound effects, I'm pretty sure. I had a fun time. It just was messy as hell, but I'm ready for the next Gundam. Let me know your thoughts down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, ring that bell, and yes, Patreon, we got the full live reactions and other exclusives, like, hey, I give a video shout out to all my patrons. So today we got Merc, Sebastian Just, Keegan Miller, Ada Alcium, Ert Swanson, Jan Peterson, Hune, Zeekster, Michael Latham, and we also have Sleeping Nights. I appreciate the support. Please take care. You'll have a good one.